So your doorbell rings.
Okay.
And it is the elaborate multi-course dinner that you ordered exactly 60 seconds ago.
Oh, wow. 60 seconds.
Yeah, exactly 60 seconds. And it's piping hot. It wasn't microwaved. It wasn't, thrown together with synthetic pre-processed junk.
Right.
It was cooked perfectly normally, tastes exactly as a Michelin-starred chef intended. But here's the catch.
There's always a catch.
The restaurant used a localized temporal displacement field to send it 30 minutes back in time to the exact moment you clicked order. So would you be happy with that?
I mean, for most of us, the visceral, immediate reaction to that thought experiment is just an overwhelming, yes, give me that technology right now.
Exactly.
We don't even hesitate to consider the complete absurdity of time-traveling food delivery.
We really don't. I mean, we don't have time-traveling delivery drivers quite yet, but we are absolutely possessed by the exact craving that time travel would solve.
Yeah.
So welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're pulling apart a really fascinating piece of source material titled The Speed Economy and the Pleasure Threshold.
A great read.
It really is. And our mission today is to figure out why our entire global market has, morphed into a literal race against the clock. We are going to look at how this obsession is driving business models, specifically things like quick commerce, and whether those models actually have any long-term economic sustainability.
Right.
And then we're going to get into what happens to your brain and really your capacity for joy when we finally hit the ultimate speed limit.
Yeah, to really understand how we arrived at this hyperspeed reality, we kind of have to recognize a fundamental shift in how human beings assign value. We are essentially trying to solve that time travel craving you mentioned through sheer brute force economic and technological power. And it's completely reshaping the physical world around us.
It is. The source material notes that the rate of change in our economy has technically been accelerating since, the Bronze Age.
Yep.
But we aren't talking about the slow rollout of the printing press or the steam engine here. We are talking about the speed of social media, digital data processing, and physical logistics. And the text points to a very specific modern disruption point for this current era.
The year 2005.
Exactly, 2005, which is when Amazon launched its two-day delivery service.
Right, and two-day delivery, it fundamentally rewired consumer psychology.
How so?
Well, prior to 2005, waiting a week or two for a package was simply, it was just the friction of distance. It was a fact of life.
Yeah, things took time.
Exactly. But Amazon turned distance into an engineering problem to be solved. And by solving it, they basically awakened this collective expectation that the speed barrier could, and honestly should, be shattered every single year.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the leap from 2 days back in 2005 to what we expect today is where the source material dives into quick commerce or acute commerce.
Right.
We have gone from 2 days being an absolute marvel to 10 minutes being the baseline expectation.
It's wild.
It is. The text uses the Indian Q-commerce market as its primary case study, and the numbers are almost hard to conceptualize.
They really are staggering.
Yeah, the gross merchandise volume, which is the total value of goods sold through these ultra-fast services, it went from $100 million in 2020 to $3.3 billion in 2024.
That is 33 times growth in just 4 years.
33 times.
Yeah, and that kind of scaling requires an unbelievable mobilization of physical and digital resources.
And the consumer data completely supports the madness, too. The text cites a report showing 48% of consumers prefer faster deliveries, and that sits right alongside the 44% who just prefer cheaper ones.
Wow.
Yeah. We're at a point where you and I value saving 10 minutes almost identically to how we value keeping money in our wallets.
Right. Time is literally money for the modern consumer.
Exactly. But I have to push back on this whole Q-commerce model for a second because the source has this really crucial line. It says, whether or not this is feasible from a long-term economic point of view is a different story. So, are these massive growth numbers just masking a fundamental flaw? How is spending billions of dollars to shave 3 minutes off a delivery time a sustainable business model?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, you are hitting on the structural vulnerability of the entire speed economy.
Okay.
To execute a 10-minute delivery, a company cannot just tell its drivers to drive faster. That's not how it works.
Right.
They have to build these really dense networks of dark stores.
Dark stores, like micro warehouses.
Exactly. Micro-fulfillment centers. placed in highly expensive premium urban real estate because they have to be close to the customer.
Oh, that sounds incredibly expensive.
Oh, it is. And on top of that, they have to run predictive algorithms to guess what you want before you even order it. And they have to maintain a massive fleet of gig workers just standing by.
So they are essentially bleeding venture capital and destroying their own profit margins just to maintain that 10-minute promise.
Exactly. They are trapped in an arms race. It is a massive positive feedback loop.
How does that loop work?
Well, technology makes the delivery slightly faster, right? And because it is faster, consumers adjust their baseline. They get used to it.
Right, now I need it in 10 minutes.
Yes, now they demand that speed. And because you expect it, companies have to bend over backward, pouring more billions into infrastructure just to capture that market share, almost completely, regardless of the long-term economic sustainability.
Because if they don't,
If a rival app delivers in 9 minutes, the 10-minute app loses its customer base overnight.
that is wild. They are engineering a highly expensive societal habit rather than building a stable business.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
But to understand why companies are willing to risk their survival on this, the author gives us an axiomatic definition for the era we live in. They say the speed economy is a system where value is a function of time to reward.
Right. The less time something takes, the more valuable it becomes.
And this economy relies on 3 distinct components to manipulate our behavior, right?
It does. The first component is speed habituation.
Meaning we're just used to it.
Right. We are entirely habituated to speed across every domain of our life.
Yeah.
We expect fast dating, fast cooking, fast decisions.
Yeah, it is deciding who to date in 3 seconds by swiping on an app.
Exactly. Or judging a 2-hour film by a 10-second trailer.
Right. What's the second component?
The second is the speed premium.
Okay.
This is the financial engine keeping those dark stores open. We actively pay a surcharge for speed,
Yeah.
completely separate from the actual quality of the product itself.
Like paying a higher delivery fee just for priority routing.
Exactly. But the third component is where the psychology gets really insidious. The author calls it amplified rewards.
Amplified rewards.
Yeah, we suffer from this illusion that getting a reward faster actually makes the reward physically bigger or better.
Okay, I have to push back a bit here, though. Let's look at a real-world example. If I am absolutely starving, a pizza arriving in 10 minutes objectively feels like a better, more satisfying reward than waiting an hour and a half for that exact same pizza.
Right.
So how is the speed diminishing that? It feels amplified to me.
That is a crucial distinction, and it really comes down to the underlying biology that the source text explores.
Okay, break that down for me.
So our oldest, most deeply wired biological motivation is the approach versus avoidance system.
Approach versus avoidance.
Right. Approach triggers dopamine in anticipation of a reward. Avoidance triggers cortisol, which is a stress hormone, when we encounter something bad, or crucially, when a reward is delayed.
Oh, interesting.
So when you're starving and the pizza arrives in 10 minutes, you are primarily relieving a negative state. You are stopping the cortisol.
So the pizza isn't actually tasting better.
Exactly. You are not necessarily increasing the culinary pleasure of the pizza, you are just escaping the pain of hunger faster. Speed is the optimal strategy to approach a reward and avoid the stress of waiting.
Wow. So we have basically hijacked an ancient survival mechanism. Fast equals dopamine, slow equals cortisol.
Precisely. And in the speed economy, bad simply means slow. A lack of speed literally triggers our biological avoidance system.
That explains so much.
Yeah, we reject or actively avoid things that feel slow because we have developed an unnaturally high standard of convenience.
You know, you've probably felt this in your own living room. The author uses this incredibly relatable, everyday example.
You know, the movie one.
Yeah, you're sitting on your couch watching a movie. It is a perfectly fine movie, but the narrative slows down, the pacing drops for just a minute, nothing explosive is happening.
Right.
What is your immediate reflex? You reach for your phone, you pull it out, as the author says, for a faster delivery of emotions via reels.
Right, because the movie didn't suddenly become terrible.
No.
It just stopped delivering dopamine fast enough. Your brain experienced a micro delay in the reward, interpreted that slowness as a threat, and triggered the avoidance response.
It basically screamed, eject, find a faster reward. It is terrifying to realize we are physiologically rejecting a 2-hour narrative because of a 1-minute lull. But, you know, this psychological rejection of slowness doesn't just apply to physical deliveries or watching movies. It is completely warping how we process knowledge and information.
Which brings us to artificial intelligence.
Yes.
AI is the ultimate localized product of the speed economy.
Yeah.
I mean, we built these large language models specifically so we could bypass the friction of searching, reading, and synthesizing.
Right. But here's where it gets really interesting. The author points out a massive contradiction here.
Yeah.
AI is giving us exactly what we demanded. It generates massive, comprehensive responses in mere seconds. The token generation speed is blindingly fast.
Unbelievably fast.
But if you type a prompt into ChatGPT and it instantly spits out 6 dense paragraphs, what do? You sit at your computer and physically sigh.
Yeah, you feel this wave of frustration.
Exactly. If the AI is so fast, why are we annoyed? Did we expect a magical 2-sentence answer that we barely have to look at?
Well, what's fascinating here is the psychological disconnect between the delivery of the information and the actual reward. The author makes a brilliant point that answers your question. Information itself is not a reward until it is understood.
Wait, information is not a reward until it is understood. Let me process that.
Think about the mechanics of the friction.
Yeah.
The AI delivers the text at the speed of light,
Right.
but your biological brain still has to take the time to read those words, parse the grammar, conceptualize the abstract ideas, and basically convert that wall of text into actual comprehension.
It's like upgrading your home's internet cable to pure fiber optics,
Yeah.
but you are still using a dusty 15-year-old router from the early 2000s.
That is a perfect analogy.
Like, the AI is the fiber optic cable, right? It delivers the data instantly, but my brain is the old router. It physically cannot process the packets of information any faster.
Exactly. Or, to use another analogy from the text, imagine ordering a beautifully baked cake and someone instantly backs a dump truck of raw flour, raw eggs, and sugar onto your driveway. Yeah, the ingredients arrived instantly, the delivery speed was flawless, but you still have to bake the cake. You still have to do the cognitive labor.
So the bottleneck isn't the technology anymore. The bottleneck is our own biology.
Right.
The frustration you feel when you see that long AI response is your brain realizing that it is going to have to access the rewards slowly. We have habituated to fast food, fast reels, fast deliveries, and now we are literally angry at our own biology for not being able to read and comprehend at the speed the AI can type.
It feels like a violation of the speed economy's core promise.
It does.
But this raises a really profound question. If we are constantly pushing against the limits of our own biology, spending billions to remove every microsecond of friction, what happens when we finally win?
Yeah.
What happens when technology actually succeeds in making the consumption of the reward as instantaneous as the delivery?
Which takes us to what the author calls the now what threshold, or the pleasure threshold. This is the logical, ultimate endpoint of the speed economy. Let's go back to our thought experiments. Imagine someone actually does invent a way to consume an elaborate Michelin star quality dinner in exactly 20 seconds.
Okay.
Or a beautiful, sweeping orchestral symphony is somehow compressed down so you experience the emotional weight of the whole thing in just 10 seconds.
Right, because we have spent all this time optimizing the delivery, but the author's asking us to imagine optimizing the consumption, because consumption takes time.
It does, and there is a profound, almost haunting analogy the text uses to illustrate the mechanism of this threshold.
The day and night one.
Yes, imagine a normal 24-hour day. You have a sunrise, a long afternoon, a sunset, and night. Now imagine the rotation of the Earth speeding up. First, a whole day passes in a few hours.
Okay.
Then it continues accelerating to a point where years are passing within mere seconds. What happens to the sky?
It blurs.
Exactly. The author says the sun and the moon just become alternating white and yellow stripes. The faster things go, the more the distinct, beautiful details blur into a meaningless gray hum.
And that is the now what threshold. It's the point where we receive the things we want so incredibly fast that we are suddenly left with immense amounts of spare time.
Right.
But because the consumption of those things is also so fast, there's nothing left to actually enjoy.
We have literally optimized away the experience.
Yeah.
There is a line from the text that perfectly sums this up. It says, "At this pleasure threshold, beauty dies."
It just dies.
Because there are actual physical constraints on what makes a reward pleasurable in the first place.
Right.
You cannot compress the sensory joy of a great meal, the evolving taste, the texture, the conversation around the table, into a 20-second experience. If you do, it ceases to be a great meal.
Yeah, exactly. A beautiful song compressed to 10 seconds isn't music anymore. It is literally just noise.
So slowing down is mathematically and biologically required for us to engage with beauty?
It is. If everything is instantaneous, there is no temporal space for pleasure to exist. Which actually brings us back to the ultimate failure condition of the entire speed economy.
Oh, right.
And this really answers your earlier question about the long-term sustainability of those quick commerce models.
Right, the company's bleeding capital to shave 3 minutes off a grocery delivery.
Exactly. The failure condition is this. The sense of reward is diminished by speed itself.
Okay.
Think about the economic implications of that. Every company in the speed economy relies entirely on providing a reward to the consumer.
Right.
But if they keep pushing the speed faster and faster to beat the competition, they will inevitably hit this pleasure threshold.
Yeah.
And when they do, the speed destroys the very pleasure of the reward they are trying to sell.
So the product is no longer enjoyable.
Exactly.
The 10-minute delivery is no longer a miracle. It is just a fleeting, empty transaction that brings no actual joy.
Right.
And the instant AI response is just a chore to read.
And if the product is no longer enjoyable, the entire economic model collapses on itself.
Yeah.
You cannot have long-term economic sustainability if your core value proposition, which is speed, eventually annihilates the reason people want your product in the first place.
What?
The massive infrastructure, the dark stores, the predictive algorithms, they are all basically funding their own obsolescence.
That is incredible. So what does this all mean for you listening right now? We have mapped the insane 33 times growth of quick commerce in India and traced how our primal drive for speed is on a literal collision course with our biological capacity to experience pleasure.
Yeah, we are engineering a world where the sun and the moon are just stripes in the sky.
So I want to challenge you to watch your own avoidance system this week.
That's a great challenge.
The next time you feel that flash of frustration because a delivery app says it will take 15 minutes instead of 10, or you sigh heavily at a long paragraph of text, or you pull out your phone during a quiet moment in a movie, ask yourself, are you actually seeking the reward in that moment, or have you just become addicted to the speed itself?
And if that addiction to speed is driving billions of dollars of unsustainable corporate investment, only to ultimately destroy our ability to enjoy the things we're rushing to get, it leaves us with one final, lingering idea to consider.
What's that?
If the ultimate endpoint of the speed economy is a world where instant gratification turns everything into a meaningless blur, will the ultimate luxury status symbol of the future be the deliberate, highly expensive choice to wait?
Paying a premium for the privilege of a meal that takes an hour to cook or a package that takes a week to arrive.
Exactly.
Choosing to leave the time machine parked in the garage just so we can remember how to enjoy the passage of time again. Keep that in mind the next time you find yourself racing the clock. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.